Often things like sensitivity, ADHD, neurodiversity, trauma can really impact our confidence. If you're someone who struggles with this, is absolutely the episode for you. Tara Lafon Gooch, who is a CEO, TED speaker, author, just incredible woman, came today to the Sensitivity Doctor to talk all about her specialized way of growing confidence that, sneak peek, has a lot to do with gratitude. That's right. I had never thought about gratitude and confidence being coupled, but she has this amazing way of coupling them. We talk a bit about why this was such a passion project for her, and we are absolutely so sensitive to think about how it impacts you uniquely. So I encourage you to think about areas of your life that you want to grow your confidence as you listen to this amazing conversation with Tara Lafon Gooch. Enjoy. So Tara, I would love to learn about you. Like, I was on your podcast, which was awesome, and I can't wait for it to come out. But I don't really know too much about what drove you towards exploring our topic today, which is confidence. And I got the inkling, too, when you and I had chatted, which I tasked you with finding out if you were an HSP, so you'll let the audience know. But I also get the sense that there was some hardship that led to that as well. So I'd love to hear more about your story.
Yeah, it's that hardship. Nobody signs up for hardship. I had this conversation with my mentor yesterday, right? Nobody signs up for adversity. I'm pretty sure I never said, yes, give me some more of that. But the great thing about it is it does shape you into who you become in the best way possible, right? For me, that, highly sensitive kind of, I always felt sensitive, even when I was a kid, especially. I just always felt like I wore my heart on my sleeve, and it was really hard. And I never felt like I fit in. I feel like a lot of people identify like that they don't feel like they fit in, that they feel like the black sheep, right? And I mean, I still kind of feel that way. I'm not sure if that ever quite goes away. But what once came from a place of unconfidence now is just a place of this is who I am and I've embraced it. Now, I'm really passionate about confidence in particularly, but just because it was I felt like so lacking in my life, especially, in my formative years growing up. And maybe it was the lack of belonging, maybe it was the lack of support, maybe, that kind of formed into just a feeling of a lack of confidence in myself and my abilities. But it really kind of came into fruition more when I became an entrepreneur in 2022 and realized how much confidence you have to have, how much visibility you have to have, how much you have to put yourself out there. And I realized this missing key of confidence was potentially holding me back. And, for a long time, I thought that's just what some people have and other people don't have. I never realized you could actually develop confidence for yourself until I started doing it, and it changed my life.
So how would you then define confidence? Because obviously we all might have a different notion, and I have so many other questions based on your experience, but I feel like we should kind of have the heading confident to you, what you would say it is.
Yeah, confidence it's truth. It's not pretense. It's authentic. It's embracing who you are unapologetically and not watering it down, not feeling like you have to change who you are. It really is embracing who you are and showing up unapologetically and with courage. So confidence is authentic courage to me. It's that truth of this is who I am, this is what I stand for, and I'm not going to water it down to make somebody else, feel a certain way. This is who I am and how I show up. So it is, I feel like it does, you know, create, or courage creates confidence either way. I think they both feed off of each other. The more courage you have, the more confidence you have,
Right.
and it keeps going, right? So that's kind of how I define it.
I like that what wasn't part of your description was that you would have to then ... be good at something
Right.
to be confident. Do you know what I mean? I'm curious your thoughts on that, because I think sometimes people get a notion that confidence looks like proficiency only.
Yes, I hear you. And I think a certain amount of when you're proficient at something, you're going to be perceived as competent, and that can give you confidence. But that shouldn't be your source of confidence. You're more than a machine, you're more than a producer. And when we only put our self-worth, our identity based on the output and the product we produce, that's when I feel like we can really start to feel a lack of confidence. Because what if that gets taken away? And what if you
True.
go to somebody, right, that doesn't see the value in what you produce and say, you know what, I can do this better? Well, then your confidence is kind of, and your identity is kind of tied to that. And if somebody says something negative towards you, you can internalize that, right? Whereas a truly authentically, courageously confident person is a humble person. I don't know a lot of arrogantly super, of course everybody does, but I think that's arrogance, and I think confidence and arrogance are separate. But it's not about tying your identity to something that you produce and output. It's about anchoring yourself in your authentic, who you really are, and fully embracing that.
When I think about sensitivity, I love your description, because people who are sensitive, highly sensitive, like feel the highs and the lows so intensely. And so they can feel
Yeah.
the opinions, the emotions, the judgments of other people to the point where it almost can feel sickening. And so if you're basing it on that, like other people's impressions or
Mhm.
any of those kinds of things, it can make it so much more intense for a highly sensitive person.
And I relate to that very
Do
much.
you? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so
I
how did you do on
am.
what was your do you remember how many yeses you had on the
I have
scale?
it I have it pulled up. I have it pulled up.
Oh, I'd love
Yes.
to know.
Yes. So I answered 15.
Okay.
So I'm on the 15 to 20 scale of yeses, which would make me a highly sensitive person. Just barely making the
Just
HSP mark, but I
barely
made
making
it.
it. Uh-huh.
I made it, right? It's not a competition.
No.
Um, but I did make that mark. So I am a HSP. It's funny though, as I was looking at these answers, I would love your opinion as a therapist. Do you think that level changes? So if I would have taken this same test, do you think 10 years ago or 15 years ago, do you think the answers would have changed?
I do, for a variety of reasons. I've read research about age and how sometimes age, trauma, medical issues, hormone changes, all of these things, of course, they're going to impact our nervous system, our limbic system, our confidence. Confidence? Look at me. I'm like, confidence. Our sensitivity. My brain is all in the confidence world right now. Um, but there are certain aspects of sensitivity that I think are a little bit more like preferential based. Something like your preference around entertainment. Like if you really enjoy, gory movies or things like that. I don't know if that would change as much, but I don't see why it couldn't. I mean, we're not I think that's the important thing when we talk about high sensitivity, is that we don't want to box ourselves in like it's just this really cut and dry thing. I think that's why I present it as a spectrum, as it should
Right.
be, because not only are there people who are highly sensitive, there are actually people who are lower sensitive. So, and that's the other kind of end of it. So, yeah, I mean, I think I've become more HSP the older I get, personally.
That's interesting. That's interesting. As I was reading, the questions, I was thinking, I think less for myself.
Mhm.
Yeah. So this is an interesting thing to explore.
Yeah. Okay. So what we might be encountering right now, then, is the difference between trauma and high sensitivity.
Ooh, okay. I'm interested.
Yeah.
I'm interested because obviously, I think, like a lot of people, I did, have childhood trauma.
And have you been working through processing?
Yes, yes, for
Right.
quite a number of years.
So if you think about some of the traits of sensitivity, they also, and this is where I look at, and I think we might have talked about how I look at neurodiversity kind of from like a trifecta lens where there's
Hmm.
these, we typically at this point in our research, we've got ADHD, high sensitivity, autism, and then I would conjecture trauma being in that as well. So I guess
Yeah,
more like a cube. Um, all of these can have hypervigilance issues,
that's true.
right? And so when you start looking at the reason, if you start to address the reason for the hypervigilance, and if the reason is addressed and it's connected to trauma, if the reason is addressed, for example, with high sensitivity, you'll be less vigilant based on kind of your load, your capacity load.
Hmm.
So if it's that malleable, it's probably more nervous system sensitivity. If it's kind of like a successive reduction in hypervigilance and you're becoming kind of just more tolerant of certain things aren't triggering you as much, to me, that speaks a little bit more to the trauma piece.
Yeah, I think it could be more of the trauma piece, and and that was one thing in my journey as well. In 2022 when I started entrepreneurship, um, I think I always say that entrepreneurship is the greatest mirror we could ever have, right? It shows the good, the bad, the ugly. And I think all of this unaddressed trauma that I had was really showing up a little bit more, right? And
Mhm.
then when I started to, go to therapy, I've done a couple different kinds of therapy and just working through trauma, it really changed, I feel like, my nervous system. I no longer felt like the hypervigilance, like you're always watching. Yes. Because, like, if you go to sleep, right, and you wake up and you're tired, your nervous system is exhausted. And I mean, you can be tired, like feeling exhausted, feeling like you're hypervigilant, constantly like on check, on watch. But then once you get that therapy, it really can change the game because you're no longer on that hypervigilance constantly. You never longer think a saber-toothed tiger is attacking you, right?
Right. I just curious, and without needing to go into extreme detail if you don't want to, but I'm happy to hear it all. Were you doing more kind of like bottom up approaches, like where it was kind of body processing? I'm thinking things like somatics, EMDR, brain spotting, or was it more cognitive, like top down? Like what
Mm.
worked well for you that you think helped with your hypervigilance?
I think,
Or maybe it was
well,
all.
yeah, kind of both. I've done both. And I
Cool.
think that's an important thing to understand too, is that it doesn't have to be a one size all fit, right? Everybody's a little different. But I think everyone could benefit from the somatic, from the body work as well, because there's a saying, issues sometimes are stored in our tissues. I don't know if
Right.
what
Yeah.
you think about that, but
Oh, I
I
agree.
I think that could be very true. And the thing of it is, it doesn't hurt to try. And if you need help in a certain area, doing a couple of different things, cognitive things, mindset things, hypnotherapy, different kinds of therapy,
Hmm.
and then, somatic therapy as well. I think they're all beneficial. I think what works for one might not work for all, but I've done a combination of different things.
Do you think any of this played a role in you finding your authentic confidence?
I think so,
Uh,
absolutely. Yeah, and stepping bravely in courage for, things that once scared me as well. Just getting out of my comfort zone, trying new things, being okay with having a beginner's mindset,
yes.
being not okay with having all the answers, that was not easy, right? Again, I think a lot of high achievers struggle with that. But being all right with having that beginner's mindset and knowing that the goal is not perfection, it never was. The goal is to just show up courageously and do hard things. You never know what you can accomplish if you don't try something. And I think that's, the point with therapy, with the point with anything that you're trying to do. So yeah, it's important.
It's interesting because when I think about I'm almost looking at it like a flow chart of your journey towards confidence, where you didn't start off feeling good at the thing, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I think there's this kind of backwards cart before the horse mentality with confidence where it's, well, I have to feel good so I can go do the thing that scares me,
Good luck,
yeah. i.e. perfectionism. I feel like that's what feeds perfectionism, honestly.
It does. It does. There's a really great quote. I can never remember who says it. I'll have to look it up afterwards. But he says, in regards to entrepreneurship, if you're not embarrassed by your first product launch, you launch too late. And I like that.
I love that.
It's that humble
Oh my gosh,
confidence.
that's so funny. When I think about when I opened Kelly Counseling, I had no billing person. I lost so much money those first couple months because I didn't know what I was doing. I was an art therapist without a table, so I had like a board that I just sat on the ground with my clients. I remember like all my furniture was from like different donation place. It was just
Yeah.
like a modge podge
Yeah.
or hodgepodge that I just kind of put in there, and I was just thinking, okay, I'm gonna figure this out as I go along, I
Yeah.
guess. I think I think what strikes me though is that people who maybe are hyper aware of seeming disappointing, like a failure, other people's judgment, they have a different mindset about going into something not knowing how to do it.
Yeah.
I was going to say, how would you speak to those people? Because my hope is that this conversation today will give people like that some ideas of how to seek out their own experience of confidence. Like, how would you speak to those people?
Absolutely. We can never know what someone else is thinking. We certainly can never control what somebody else is thinking. So, how is that relevant? It's not, right? And what I've learned is that I can only control really, truly two things. And that's great. And the two things that I can control are my intention and my integrity. I
Mm.
can't control the outcomes, but I control the intention that I put on something, and I control the quality and the integrity of whatever it is that I'm doing. And I have found that if you focus on those two things and not on noise
Mhm.
and not on outcomes, not what other people's opinions are of you, because it used to drown me. I used to constantly be thinking and ruminating about what other people think of me. It's actually not even a consideration anymore, which
Awesome.
when you get to that point, I'm not saying that happened overnight, but when you get to that point, it's a different level of freedom. It's hard to explain, but it's really truly like breaking the chains of freedom when you no longer care about the opinions of others.
And I do think it's important to just speak to like someone who's listening who's maybe really sensitive to other people's opinions and they're thinking, I'll never get there. I think it's also okay, and I would love your opinion on this, to
Mhm.
shield your exposure to people's opinions too. Like,
Yes.
don't read the comments.
Yes.
Don't hang out with people who you don't want to be in like the ring of life with them because you don't like how they're living their life. And I'm not saying exclude people, but like not take in those opinions.
Your environment is so, so, so important. And I use an analogy of an apple seed because it's really memorable.
Okay.
If you have an apple seed, let's say you have two apple seeds. You have one apple seed, you just haphazardly, carelessly throw it in the road. It may find a crack in the road. It may sprout, but I think we can all agree that's not great conditions. It's dangerous, right? The seed could get trampled on very easily, run over. And even if it finds a crack, again, it could be run over. It's not great conditions. So
Right.
we can all agree that that's not where the seed should go.
Right.
Now, if you take that another seed and you plant it in a field that has plowed soil and you give it adequate nutrients and water and sunshine, well, now the seed can grow, it can flourish. And the thing about the seed is there's no difference between the seed. They have the same blueprint. They have the same purpose and potential,
I love
right?
that. Yeah.
They were designed for the same thing, for growth, to become, right, this big tree that produces other apples. But if you put it in the wrong environment, it cannot grow to its full
So
potential,
good. I
right?
love that.
So the same is true for us. The people that we surround ourselves with, if we feel, what is this person thinking of me? We get all self conscious. Why are we hanging out with this person?
Yeah. It's so I love that. That's so good. I love visuals too. I love a good
I know,
metaphor.
me
I think all
too.
therapists love a good
Metaphors,
metaphor and coaches.
right?
It's interesting because I think about times in my life where I felt the most kind of shaky. Like when I don't feel confident, it comes out as like a shakiness. And I'm definitely not as funny or I can't gather. Because when I'm being humorous, usually it's when I'm like in a confident space. So I find that my road, if you throw me and I end up in the road, it's when I'm around people who can't laugh at themselves.
Yeah.
That's when I struggle. That's when I'm like, okay, I'm not in my field that
Yep.
I need to be. I can think of times in my life where I was in the same environment. I'm actually thinking when I used to play rugby, and I've played on one, two, three, four different teams, like in different areas. And I won't say which one I'm mentioning right in this moment. Three out of the four, I felt really confident. I loved my team. I loved every time we got together. I was my humorous self. I was able to be light. And then this other team, I always felt very like tight. Like I couldn't just kind of be myself. I felt very outside the fringe. It just wasn't jiving. And I look back and at that time in my life, because I was so much younger, I kept thinking, well, maybe I'm not a good enough player, which I mean, let's
Yeah.
be honest, I was not nearly as good as the women on this team. Um, and I can say that confidently because
Yeah.
I actually think part of confidence is also being okay and aware of the things you're not good at.
100%.
Yeah, can you speak on that? We don't need to keep talking about rugby, which I could do all day, but
I love it. I love it. So, yeah, I think you're right. It's important to surround yourself with people that can make fun of themselves, that can be lighthearted, right? And for you to do the same. And it's all right to acknowledge that you don't know everything. Again, it's being truthful, right? But I think that, it's important I kind of liken confidence as well. I love metaphors to a jar. Okay, so
okay.
if you have a jar and you have a couple coins in it and you shake it, one, it's going to be really light. It's not going to be full. It's going to make a lot of noise. And then you have another jar and it's completely full. It's really hard to pick up. And when you shake it, it doesn't make noise. The people that are really grateful, and that's why I say gratitude is the foundation of confidence. The people that are really grateful, you'll notice that they have a quiet confidence. And they're the most calm people in the room. They're also the most comfortable people to be around. Kind of goes into that where if you have developed that, we talked about on my podcast, that
Oh,
growth mindset and how gratitude can help us develop a growth mindset. Gratitude can also help us develop that quiet, comfortable, authentic confidence to where we don't show up in a room loud, shaky. We show up full, grounded, and purposeful. I think that's a really big distinction.
I wonder, a couple things came to my mind when you were saying that, because if you're someone who feels, when you said quiet, I almost think of the word settled. I think you might have said settled. And I think the reason that word came to my mind is because I'm thinking of a lot of people that listen to this podcast also have ADHD, and they're not always the quietest in the room. It's actually part of their strength set often to
Right.
not be the quietest in the room. So is there a way to kind of make that confidence message neuroaffirming for someone with ADHD? And how does that maybe look different?
I love that. I think you can take up space, and you should, right? And you can take up space not only in your physical presence, but with your voice. We're doing it right now. We're having a conversation and a dialogue based on something that is purposeful for both of us to talk about, right? And I think it's a self-awareness piece. You know, you don't want to be necessarily the loudest person in the room. It's not about being the loudest person in the room, but it is about expressing your opinion confidently. So, for example, if you are in a board meeting, right? I see this with a lot of women, especially. They are hunched over, they're taking notes, they're the scribe. They're not contributing in the meeting. So, what happens over time? They get kind of looked over, glossed over. So, if you want to show up more confidently, even in a setting like that, something that's very simple is always make sure your voice is heard in a productive way, right? So, if you have something to say and somebody said something and you really agree with it, just raise your hand and say, you know, Bob had a great idea about this. And I think if we implemented this and did this and dot, 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 and now all of a sudden you're being seen as a leader in your organization. So it's very much leadership as well. Confidence is about being a leader, and it starts with being a leader of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
having that self awareness, and having that desire as well to show up, take up space, have your voice be heard confidently in a purposeful way. I think that takes a lot of people farther. And it helps as well with ADD because you're probably sitting there thinking, I want to say something, I want to say something. One of the best ways to do that is by complimenting somebody else that's in the room, echoing, honoring that person, and then expressing your opinion as well. I think that's a great trick for somebody.
I like the idea of incorporating others if it's a necessity. It makes me think of I won't give details so I don't throw anyone under any proverbial buses, but I was in a setting recently. You may or may not have been there, I don't know, where I had something to say and the person running the thing, I really don't want to give details, was not giving me the microphone. And
Oh
and I had
no.
something to say and others were having a turn. And I about this topic very confident and I wanted to speak up. And so I just kind of instinctually, almost out of survival mentality, like looked at the people around me like, "Oh, are they not going to give me the microphone?" Like I started to kind of corral people with me, just a handful of people that were around me. And then as I'm trying to get the microphone to say my piece, I'll tell you about this after we record. Um, uh, someone else spoke up for me and was like, "Hey, are you going to give her a turn with the mic? We want to hear from her too." It's almost like I had to have the moment of, I guess, inner confidence, like you were saying, to ask for help. To say, like, "Wait a minute, I'm being treated unfairly right now." And so I'm thinking of the scenario you were saying in the boardroom where whether it be gender, whether it be not neuroaffirming work environments, whether it be nepotism, I don't know, all the things, all the reasons. I saw this insane study that I had referenced in my gaslighting training last week about Congress, where they had compiled this group had compiled 24,000 hearings and rated how often women were interrupted. And they were interrupted up to 10,000, or I'm not 10,000, mixing up studies, 10% more than men. And then when it was a topic that was related to women's issues, the number doubled.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. And so I see this, like, if we look at the confidence piece, we have this internal confidence, I think, that drove the beginning of our conversation. But
Hmm.
then we almost have like systemic confidence around groups.
And that's why your group is so important. Again, it goes back to the environment, right?
Uh,
Because the people, if you didn't have an advocate for you in that
I
audience,
never would have gotten the mic.
you never would have gotten the mic. And this is why we find our tribe and find it, but you can't find it if you're not your authentic self, right? So
I could see that.
it's so important because your tribe cannot find you unless you show up as them, right? And you start showing up as that type of person, not as your authentic self, not necessarily as somebody you're faking or whatever.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think that's really important though. It all goes back to finding the right people to advocate for you and that you can advocate for them in return. It's so powerful. I couldn't imagine being in a tribe that I didn't feel like every single one was an ally. Why would they be
Right.
there? Why would they
And I,
be there?
and that's, I mean, that's a testament to you were mentioning the trauma work that you've done,
Yeah.
because I know a lot of people who are early in their journey of trauma work and or they haven't even started they've started the journey because they're sitting here listening. But the ones who, they're just not there yet, where I can't tell you how many times I have a client sit in my office and say, I don't know who I am.
That breaks my heart, right?
I know. I know. And it's often really often connected to gaslighting, whether it be, being misunderstood or mislabeled or overwritten or ignored or distorted, like just your perception of yourself gets so mishandled. Um, for someone who's listening who feels like, okay, I don't really know what my authentic self is, what would you say would be a good first step?
Oh, I love this question. You know, so my TEDx talk is called Gratitude, the Foundation of Confidence. I really do believe gratitude is the first step to that. And I say that because I teach it as a three-layer process: gratitude for who you were, gratitude for who you are, and gratitude for who you are becoming. When you can have gratitude for the things in your past that you didn't once have gratitude for, things that were adversities, traumas. And I'm not saying that we clap our hands and we're excited about this, but what in that situation, what did it teach us? And I know it taught everybody something, right? What about who we are today are we grateful for? Well, the past helped shaped us into the resilient leader you are today, the successful person you are today. Insert X, whatever that is. And who is this helping you become? When you can start to really see your future self of who you want to step into, that embodiment, it's a lot easier to gain the confidence because if you can firmly visualize something, and there's a great quote that I anchor this by, it's by Marian Wright Edelman: you can't be what you can't see.
That's
So
her.
see the person you want to become, because if you're stuck in an environment and a limited perception of who you think you are, and you can't see past that, it's going to be really hard to step into that next level. So I would say for somebody listening, I would challenge them: find a couple things that they're grateful for in the past, a couple things they're grateful for in the present, and a couple things they're already grateful for their future self. Someone, I think it's Joe Dispenza, he says when you can have gratitude for the future, it catches up a lot quicker.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah. And it's again being able to see that really clearly. And try the exercise. It's free. It costs nothing. Right?
That's so good because I can actually think from I love when the worlds of and I think I value coaches because you're a coach, correct?
Yep.
Yes. You actually coach some of my favorite people. And I think the value of like really well researched, enthusiastic coaches, like people who find their niche and like really dive into it. coupling it with, therapy and all these like kind of empirically supported things is like, it's like the secret special sauce, because when what you just said with gratitude aligns quite perfectly with parts work, with
Yep.
internal family systems work, because part of unburdening our parts and allowing, let's say we have an insecure part, right? Part of unburdening the insecure part is expressing gratitude for what it's tried to do for us, so that it doesn't feel admonished, so it doesn't feel put down, so that we can learn from it. So we can't really learn and evolve and move forward without that gratitude piece. And then that also allows you to, I love it too, because the way you're saying gratitude in the present makes me think of like working from more of that growth mindset and working through rejection sensitivity. Because if we have gratitude for even our hiccups as
Yes.
being part of the ladder, the system that gets us where we want to go, love that. And then what you said about the future, I love that because it aligns well with an exercise I do with some of my DV survivors or folks who are trying to get out of domestic violence or just dangerous relationships, where they get so stuck in the fear mentality of,
Yeah.
what am I going to do? What if they do something to them? What if they do something to my children? The cycle. And we're not even talking about the addictive cycle of the trauma bond that you get the
Right.
reward out of it at some point. We're talking just pure terror about leaving, which is another reason that people don't leave. And it takes upwards of 7 times to leave. What I do with them sometimes, they get so fixated on the fear-centered part, which is understandable, that I'll walk them through a meditation where they imagine their first apartment on their own,
Oh, I love
right?
that.
We do it all, like, what kind of music do you have playing? What kind of candles do you
I
have? What
love
scents are
that.
there? What is in the windows? What are
Yes.
you doing? Like, embodying what it feels like
Mhm.
to be there, which is what you're saying about, like, you can't get there to that hard goal if you can't envision it.
Absolutely. That is so, so right on. And this exercise works for anybody, whatever, regardless of your goal. I have TEDx speakers that I coach, and I take them through this exercise as well, right? Because sometimes it's hard to visualize yourself doing the hard thing. So, whatever your goal is, if you go through this exercise with that in mind, you'll start to, again, embody that person so much quicker. And it really is, it's a transformation that's possible. And it starts through gratitude. And one of my colleagues, Dr. Grant Van Elbrick, what he says is that a caterpillar does not change into a better caterpillar. A caterpillar transforms into a butterfly. And when you change, you can always change back. We've all lost 20 pounds and gained it back. That's change. This is transformation. And the butterfly can't go back, can't change back, can't reverse that. So it's a new creature. And I think that's the beauty and the promise of, gratitude and incorporating into our lives, not just to build confidence, but to increase neuroplasticity, to rewire our brain, build a resilient growth mindset. It's all possible through gratitude, and confidence is a great byproduct of it as well.
I really appreciate your message on gratitude, because it's going to help me honestly work with my clients. Because
Yeah.
I mean, often I'll get into these scenarios where we'll figure out what's going on. They have the insight. We know where they want to go. And then we're kind of at, like, we call it like the therapy cliff, where they just have to decide if they're going to jump and start doing the thing, whether it be like asking for help, setting a boundary, applying for that job, whatever it is, leaving an abuser. And then I talk with them often about how when you jump off the cliff, it is going to be terrifying and it's not going to feel comfortable. It's probably not going to feel natural. That whole like fake it till you make it. I almost think it's like fake it till you become it, because
Yes.
we need that muscle memory, that practice. It took decades sometimes to get some of these thinking patterns that destroy confidence. it's going to take some repetitions to get to where it even feels remotely natural. But I love what you're offering. You're offering me something today to offer to my clients where I need to work a little bit more on inserting gratitude into that cliff. Like
I think,
almost
I
like
mean,
gratitude for being at the cliff even.
yeah, yeah. And it really did change my life. The and I would love to share the story of how I kind of stumbled on
Please,
this.
yeah.
So when I was brand new in entrepreneurship, again in 2022, I had just left my corporate job. So I was a corporate dropout, right? I had no plan B. I just left. All behind, by the
You
way.
jumped.
Totally burnt the boat. I didn't have a car. I had no car because I had a company car. So I had to get rid of the company car, life insurance, my laptop. I didn't even I had nothing,
Wow.
right? But I just knew I was called for more.
Mhm.
So burnt the boat, did the thing, went to my first online networking webinar deal. I don't even know how I was invited because nobody knew me back then. It's really funny. Like, I'm like, how did I get this invite?
They're like, you seem cool. Come on
Yeah.
in.
I think it was more to do with I just live in North Carolina, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So I got the webinar invite and I went to it. And at this time, I was super, I would say, not feeling confident in myself. Went to this webinar. The guest speaker was talking about a book that was published in 1912. I think it's 1912 or 1910, The Science of Getting Rich. And she read her favorite part, and she was talking about her favorite part of the book, which is about gratitude. It was as if I heard it for the first time. I can't really explain it other than the fact of you hear this word forever and then one day it resonates on a deeper level.
Yeah, I get that.
And I heard this word gratitude and she was talking about it and she was so passionate about it. So I had to read the book. It became my favorite book. I still read it. I've read it, I think, 70 times on Audible, maybe more.
Well, geez, now I need to read
Yeah,
it.
I know. You've got to read it. And what I realized is that the flaw of the book was that gratitude was chapter 7,
Oh, you think it should have been like the forward, like right up front.
right up front. And when I really started, I call it a relationship with gratitude because it is a daily practice, it's a lifestyle. It's not like a one and done checklist
Yeah.
like we treat it as when it's like actually a relationship. Oh my gosh, did my confidence start soaring? Did I felt like I was really stepping into, you said step into, embodying the person that I was like always inside me that I felt,
Mm.
but was never fully expressed.
So I have a follow-up question for you.
Yay, I love it.
How do you do this beautiful practice when everything seems like it's gone to hell in a handbag?
Right? 2026 has been
I saw this. Oh my gosh, I saw this funny video of like, have you seen Titanic?
no, no.
Oh, you haven't seen Titanic. Okay, well, epic movie. Yeah, okay. You know the scene where the ship is going down and the orchestra is like,
Yep,
"Oh, I guess we'll keep playing." I saw
yep.
this video where it had a caption above saying therapists in 2026. And the ship is going down, but we're gonna keep going. But I mean,
Oh,
even not even on a macro level, even like on an internal personal level, like you're in a terrible relationship. You can't lose the 20 pounds. You got health issues. You're broke, like whatever the thing is, whatever the stressor is. How do you suggest practicing gratitude in those moments?
so yes, I love this question. Let's say someone rejects me or I fail or a client says they no longer want to do business with us or whatever it is. I'm actually it's almost like a I call it a ninja mindset move, gratitude.
Mm. Okay.
Once you like really develop this daily practice of gratitude, and I can talk a little bit more about that as well, you just offer an immediate expression of this is good. Oh, thanks. I can't wait to see what this is freeing me up to have.
Oh,
So I
okay.
used to think,
I get
yeah, I
it.
used to think, oh my God, oh, woe is me. They don't like me. I just failed. I just screwed up huge. Now I think, oh, great. This was actually weighing me down.
Mhm.
And now I know that something even bigger is coming, that if I had this still attached to me, I wouldn't be able to invite that big thing that's on its way to me now.
I could see how you would have to couple this with a growth mindset.
Have to.
Yeah, you have to.
Have
You
to.
can't, if you don't, it would feel like internally disingenuine.
Yes. The
Yeah,
growth mindset aspect is absolutely huge. And it's the belief that we are all worthy, we're all deserving, and that there's always something so much greater for you that's coming that you have no idea about. And there is a trust component to that, there's a hope component to that. But what I have found is when you do this enough, it starts to really become true. And in the beginning, you may say, okay, where is it? Right? Just trust and be open to receive. And it does feel a little bit like manifestation, but it's not really manifestation. I think opportunities and people and positivity and prosperity are always there for us. Sometimes we have blinders on, we can't see them. But when you practice a growth mindset coupled with gratitude,
right.
the scales kind of fall off a little easier, and it's just easier for you to see everything is working out for you for the highest and best good, and it starts to really become true after a while.
I think that's also why things like coaches, therapists, great friends,
Yeah.
spiritual leaders, whoever it is, like we are communal beings, and it's
Yeah.
totally okay for anyone listening who is thinking this sounds terribly difficult to like borrow the confidence of other people. And I don't mean take it out of them like a leech,
Yes.
but like maybe re-listening to this episode or maybe bookmarking particular things that you've been saying today, which are very inspiring, so that it becomes the repeat message. Because you said something that we didn't touch on that I think is an important distinction as well. You were saying like the awareness that like I deserve to be treated
Yes.
well is actually
Yes.
steeped in not confidence. It's actually steeped in self-esteem.
Yeah.
And self-esteem, I think people get a little confused thinking,
Mhm.
aren't they the same thing? But no, self-esteem is the core of like, I deserve to be cared for and regarded as like a valuable human being.
Yeah.
And then the confidence piece. And I think sometimes people jump thinking they're going to build the confidence to build the self-esteem.
Right.
So if you are listening and you're thinking, how do I just like be grateful for crappy things and have a growth mindset when I feel like crappy things are supposed to happen to me? Because that's what lack of self-esteem sounds like.
Right.
This is a battle call, guys. Like just name it. Just name this is my self-esteem speaking up because of all my history, and it makes sense that the
Mhm.
self-esteem part is struggling right now. We don't have to have self-esteem part dictate what's going to happen with my confidence when I do what Tara's recommending. Yeah.
I love that.
So for the people listening to this amazing conversation, I have to have you back. You're wonderful. I mean, honestly, is you had mentioned that there's like a practice that you recommend. I think you've kind of touched on it a little. I don't know if you'd be willing to gift the audience like a party favor for the end of the episode of like what's just something someone can walk away with today saying, okay, this is going to be a practice I start to do.
Yes. So this is physics. It's real. It's actually it's a couple different kinds of sciences. When you write things down, it's really, really powerful. And if we look at the observer effect, so that's physics, and we look at the slit experiment, feel free to look this up.
I
It's
don't know what
double
that
slit
is.
experiment. Yeah, double slit experiment, particles going through, and if there's an observer, the observer it has found that they can control the outcome of where the particles go through the slit.
What
So
particles?
particles, it goes, well, I should say, like, okay, if you think about it this way, thoughts are waveform,
Okay.
right? Particles would be a material form.
Okay. Okay. I got
So
you.
particles going through a slit. If there's an observer, the observer can control how the particles go through the slit, etc. Now, if you have a thought, but you haven't written it down, it's a thought, it's a wave. If you write it down in the physical, it becomes real. Write it down,
Tangible.
tangible. You can reread it, you can hold it. And I do believe that writing, physically writing with a hand and a pen on paper is important. And I like to take my clients through this exercise as well. Again, you can start with gratitude for maybe 3 things in your past that you can find gratitude in. And you can find gratitude in your past, trust me. I grew up with a dad who was an alcoholic, he was abusive, there was disconnection. I never heard the word I love you from him my entire life, right? Abuse, etc. I found gratitude in that. So I would encourage anybody to find the gratitude in some kind of a way. It's a teacher, it's a lesson.
Right.
Same thing for your present. What are 3 things right now you're grateful for? In the future, we're talking about gratitude for the future. What are 3 things you're already grateful for as if they are here right now?
Oh, I love that.
And I think this is important because if you want a sports car, let's say you're sitting in a sports car, nobody is sitting behind the steering wheel of a sports car saying, I really want a sports car. They already have it, they
Right.
have possession of it.
Mm.
Gratitude puts you in a state of current possession. You
Oh,
already
okay.
have the sports car
Right. Right. I got you. Energetically.
energetically, right? And
Mhm.
now at the end of the day, now that you've written this out, what if at the end of the day you reread them before you go to sleep at night? And you do this practice for 10, 20, 30 days. All of the sudden, you're more grateful, you're more connected, you feel a sense of grounding, you're more inspired, you feel less of why did this happen to me and what is this doing for me? And more of I can't wait for to receive this rich blessing that's coming into my life. And I think it's very powerful and it can help anybody. And again, it's free.
I love that so much. I can see how, on so many ways, it could help people struggling with thought distortions or thought patterns that are hurting them or holding them back, so
Hmm.
that the natural confidence that really we all inherently have inside of us can finally, I'll use your metaphor, can finally come up from the field
Yeah,
and come into the sunshine.
I
So,
love
well,
that.
Tara, this was such a great conversation. I confidently knew that you would be able to speak on this topic so well. And I'm really pleasantly surprised by all the directions you took us. I think there's so many good ideas people can use. And I encourage repetition with this episode. Like, this is a good one to re-listen to any days you're feeling self-doubt, rejection sensitive dysphoria, uncertainty, not wanting to take the leap. Like, come back and we'll get you again. So, for anyone who wants to follow you, listen to your podcast, which is fabulous, maybe even, I don't know if you take on new coaching clients, wherever you're at in your entrepreneurship, where can they find you and what do you want to share with everyone?
Absolutely. I'm on pretty much every social media platform. I'm the most active on Instagram and LinkedIn.
Mhm.
Tara Lafon Gooch. I'm the only one, right?
Well, you have
And
a really cool name, so I'm not
yeah,
surprised.
I was telling our mutual friend, Dr. Amna Shabir, this
Mhm.
yesterday. I had a meeting with her in person, and she said, "You have such a cool name." And I said, "You know, the great thing about it is you might forget what I look like or what I say, but you'll never forget my name." So I've got that going
Yes,
for me.
got a good rhythm.
Yeah. So Tara Lafon Gooch, you can also visit my website, taralafongooch.com, to hire me for speaking. And my company's website is Best Branding Solutions.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we'll have to get together, the three of us, sometime.
For
So
sure.
we can all be each other's confidence tribe.
Yep.
But I hope all of you, found some inspiration today, and maybe, like, I almost feel like all these metaphors you gave were these beautiful little tokens that they can put in their pocket and pull out when they need it. So, take some time to lean into gratitude, maybe get off the episode and write a couple things in the moment, and we'd love to hear them, and you can share them. So feel free to, reach out, share your gratitude, maybe in the comments on one of the episodes or on YouTube or something, but just please let us know. I'd love to hear it. So, Tara, thank you again so much for coming, and you will have to come back.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, be well, everyone.